Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Girls, and Purrs. My name is Leslie, and guess what? I did it. Can I pick this up? I finally finished my first project of the year. It's part of my shelf by shelf project. I wish I could say that it was going to be an all year long project, but it's going to probably be over a couple of years. All right, so the project is that I read books from all my small shelves, because I feel like that will kind of feel like psychologically a reasonable goal that won't overwhelm me, instead of looking at my regular size shelves, which are packed to the brim because I have a book hoarding problem. So yeah, I didn't make a video for the TBR. I think I felt like a little bit overwhelmed by the end of last year. So I just took a photo. So if you want to see, like, I just posted it as I just put it as a post on YouTube. I'm feeling better and I have better energy. So I went ahead and scheduled a TBR video for the second shelf, but I'll probably take a photo of it as well and post in the post section of YouTube. And the video is going to come out like October 1st. So just so you know. I don't know where to start. Where do we start with all these? Let's talk about probably maybe the most challenging one to read. There are books that have taken me quite a long time to get through, and that was typically nonfiction, and also just like the sheer volume of them. But those aren't the ones that actually I had an issue with. The one that I felt like I gained so much knowledge, but felt like maybe I didn't do the book justice in any way. I just feel like there's too much I have to learn. I have to read the book possibly 3 more times and read some other books. Maybe watch some documentaries too before I fully like grasp what the author is saying. Is The Wretched Earth by Frantz Fanon. I'm pretty sure the author goes into so much of Algerian history and his part to play in it. But great book. I don't know what else to say other than I read it and I felt like there's no way I could talk about this. So I did do a short review. I think I did a long review, but I always do like spoiler chats for my TBR projects, but I just felt like at a loss. Like I didn't do this particular work justice. And it was published in 1961. This is a reissue. And I did like that there was an introduction by Cornel West. They continue to be like a political figure that I pay attention to. And I always look to just to hear their take on the political landscape. This kind of very, I felt like this was adjacent to another book that I give a lot of praise for, and that is Decolonize the Mind by Ngugi Thiong'o, I believe. It's already on my shelf somewhere, which is just talking about really identifying the structures that have been placed by a colonial construct, because you need to know that in order to deconstruct, basically. And this is just really this author's point of view, but also really talks about, I would say, like violence as a form of activism, and that to not believe in protest in a violent way is kind of like to be a part of the problem or to be complacent in it. And that's hot take. But I'm so glad that I read this. The author has a couple of other works out that I haven't read that I want to, but they passed away very young. And so I really wish this person was still alive, because I felt like they write like they're running out of time. Like there's just so much to be said. And so this really just packed a punch. But again, I felt like I could never do this book justice, no matter what I say. I also wanted to have tea in line with the camera, but she's asleep and slightly annoyed, so that's why you're seeing the back of her a little bit. So yeah, let's talk about books that really took me, really sucked me in. There's a couple of them. I think I have to say that there are 3 that are part of this first TBR project, and I'll show you all 3 at once. That is Rainbow Milk by Paul Mendes, The Scent of Burnt Flowers by Blitz Bazawule, and You Gotta Be You by Brandon Kyle Goodman. I was so excited when this author put out this book that, like, I think I did a quick little haul chat, and I was so excited that I picked up this book. I kept calling him by his middle name. I know his name, but I think that video haunts me to this day because I was like, why am I doing that? I know the author's name. And also, I would have to say that all 3 of these books have like a important through line going through this. And that is a conversation about, where do I start? Race, sexuality, and gender. And actually, not so much this, I just realized this is more like race, not necessarily sexuality and gender in this one. But yeah. So this is a memoir. I'm not, I don't gravitate towards like self-help. This is a memoir, but there is maybe like at the end of each section, there's kind of this assessment of what the author is talking about in their lives, how they grew. And so there is an element of self-help, but in a way that didn't feel didactic, that just really worked for me. And I really think about this author's work because they're really leading through, I want to say activism with empathy and compassion, and connecting with community and having, so much compassion for one's own community, but in a way that even if their community or factions of their community don't love them back, they continue to love them and empathize and kind of rationalize their behavior, but through history. And so, there's this toggling. How do I say? What's a word? I can't think of it right now, but just toggling through all the different variations of self, and realizing that they're non-binary, their discovery, and just how people just continue to discover more about themselves and others. And so it's just really beautiful, really kind, really loving. And this is one of those books that I was just engrossed with, and I read really fast, and I'm a slow reader. But this really just like took my breath away, and it's definitely a memoir that I'd recommend. Let me see. There's also Rainbow Milk. Something that connects Rainbow Milk to You Gotta Be You is that there's a character, not the main character. There's another character that has this level of like self-hate, internalized racism, and we see how it affects the main character. But there's also this religious trauma that is being dealt with. There's sexuality that they're grappling with, and also the racial dynamics. And we get a glimpse of history and how it affects the characters' present day, and very much steeped in family dynamics. This takes place in, there's 2, where am I at? So this starts off in 1950s, Jamaica, and then a character migrates to Britain, but we're only with that character for a short period of time. And I bring that up because when I read the back, I think I felt like misled because I thought I was going to get more of that character. But then we go to, like, let's say present day Jesse McCarthy. I forgot what timeline it is. It's been a while. 2001? It might be 2001. It's been a while. And beyond that, because this does travel through time. as this person grows older. Then we read from Jesse, and yeah, everything that I said that they grapple with. But the prose are just so beautiful. There's this kind of in and out quality of the timeline to create more of like a faster pace, but the writing is so riveting. I don't even think that the book really needed that. And that's a testament to the author's writing. I would highly suggest you watch the author speak about their book. There's definitely interviews on YouTube. Just a really beautiful, beautiful gentleman, and I enjoyed their work. But yeah, paired very well with You Gotta Be You, and just getting to a point where you see what's going on in society and realizing like, oh, I'm not the problem. It's everyone else, and I just need to get to a place of knowing myself and loving myself. And I thought that was a really beautiful connection between those two books that really took me. And I read them back to back, and that had to be like the most beautiful experience, was just reading those two books back to back. There was also The Scent of Burnt Flowers. This author also directed the musical movie adaptation of The Color Purple. So this is about a couple. Was it in 1950s? I should know. It's been a while. There's a couple, and it's during segregation. They go traveling along. They end up in a situation where they end up in a state that puts them in a situation where they're going to have to survive. And in order to survive, they're going to end up having to leave the States, and they go to another country because one of the spouse, not Bernadette, Melvin, knows a political figure in Ghana, and it's a real life political figure, and he thinks that this person will protect them. So it's a very deep conversation of where is home? You know, the States is home, but that home doesn't love you. So there's this idea of the grass being greener on the other side, and going to Ghana, and then really being confronted with a lot of political turmoil over there as well, and still searching for home. Is this my new home? Will this home accept me? There's also this, I'd say, this touch of magical realism in here, for the lack of better words. That's really beautiful. I'm glad I was included. Thematically, it just really worked. It was very deep, and I loved it. But it also made it kind of easy for me to figure out what's going to happen, if that makes any sense. Oh, and there's definitely a conversation about, the patriarchy in both lands that really worked for me. So, I mean, those three books really like took my breath away. Let me see. A book that was so wild that I finally felt like I met my match. I didn't even know that there was a limit for me about what I'm willing to read. And oh, there's tea. Did I wake you up? I'm sorry. There's a difference between like, I want to challenge myself. I want to be taken away in my imagination. But I finally hit a book where I was like, this is too much for me. I didn't even rate it. You want to be seen? She gets cranky sometimes. And that would be Slug and Other Stories by Megan Meltz. I think at some point I'm going to want to read other work by this author, but the way that they write is so vivid. And if you've read any work by Chuck Palahniuk, I kind of feel like these two authors are paired well in terms of how they write. It's a short story, so it's vivid. There's a talk about like kinks. There's quite a bit of like sensuality meshed with like violent acts. There's just a blurring and a conversation about gender transition, but like in a symbolic way. That's not really what got to me. What got to me was like, I'm so confused how to even say this. I couldn't tell if it was just like a conversation about furries, or if it was about schmistiality is what I called it, because I don't want to say the word here. But it was just a little too wild for me, where I can't unsee what happened in my mind's eye. But I pushed through and read it. But and I don't really, every single like review or interview is just like how like captivating this is, or like what a wild piece of great work this is. That may be true, but I don't really hear anyone talking about like, did this cross the boundaries for them? Like, I'm not really seeing that. So I'm like, am I the problem? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that book really, it's wild. Okay, it's wild to say the least. Did I read any more short story collections? I read South Central Noir. This is a book that I had picked up at Village Well, and it happened to be a signed copy. Not that that really matters. That's not neither here nor there, but I just thought it was like a little cool nippy thing. That's not why I picked it up. I just like the idea of reading an anthology that focuses on regionalism, and I'm new to this. But this was launched in 2004 with Brooklyn Noir, and if you look at the back of the book, this has been going on so long. There's so many other where is it? I'll tell you right now. There's so many other editions where it's just focusing on a different part, and it's not just the states. So I could kick myself. So yeah, there's even a map that shows like what parts of South Central we're digging into. And there's also, I could have sworn I saw it. Is this in my head? Was it in my head? I think it was here, but I don't see it right now. But what's great was this is my first time I read a short story or any work by Tananarive Due. And unbeknownst to me, right when I read this, I ended up reading her new horror novel, I can't think of the name right now. It just came out. Stephen King loved it. Why am I like this? Why can't I think of the name? Not The Revenant. Something with an R. I can't remember. But anyways, in the meantime, I mean, like, there's so many. There's New Haven. There's Oakland. There's Singapore Noir. Upcoming is Austin, Cleveland, Hamburg, Jerusalem Noir in the West. Native Noir, which I don't know how. There she goes. Which is going to be edited by David Heska Wanbley Whedon, which is really cool. I've read his crime novel. I guess I'll say crime novel. That was absolutely incredible. So yeah, I just think that's so cool. That would be like a cool project that I do like years down the line. You know, maybe I'll spend one whole year of just reading all the different noir editions the author put out. That would be so cool. If anybody else does that project, that would also be great. But yeah, it was definitely a great way to dip into all these different authors' work. And I like the idea that South Central, like, I'm aware of that's at. I've been there. I'm in Los Angeles, California. LA County is huge. So there is this kind of quality of liking that I know exactly what the authors, like the area that they're talking about is kind of a little like chef's kiss moment, you know? Let me see before I move on. I read The Color Purple, and that was around the same time I read the other book. I was just talking about it. I have my stack's getting huge. Right around the time I read The Scent of Burnt Flower, and I'm glad that I read these like around the same time, because then I just had questions, or like maybe imagined how is this author, Blitz Bazawule, going to tackle this musical version of The Color Purple. And so I understand why this is such a beloved book. It's written in the form of letters, which I did not know. And it was my first time reading it. And it was just so deeply, how do I say this? Sometimes when books are just like filled with trauma, sometimes it just makes you feel like, I don't know, temporary depression. but the main character that we're reading through just has so much like, how should I say? It's not really explicitly said, but there is this kind of like, there's such a kindness and a sense of hope that they have. And I feel like we could easily dismiss this as like maybe just a coping mechanism, or because this character has no choice but to hope. But I also felt like, no, other characters could be, I mean, we see other characters and how they behave. And she could easily go down that road of being bitter and snippety. But I think it's just a testament to the how the author crafted the character. Um, Something else that I'm going to go off on a tangent about the adaptation. Um, Both adaptation, the one done by Spielberg and Blitz, I wish they kind of created more of like a narrative thread where we're seeing why the male characters treat some of the female characters so badly. Because yes, they are being treated badly. I get that, and how they're treated is inexcusable. But we still need to see how, like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is present there. I just wanted a tighter narrative thread of showing like, well, it's actually this white supremacist society that's treating men so badly that that creates a pattern. Like if you're constantly emasculated every time you walk out your door, when you come back and open that door to your home, you might come back and try to, in a very toxic way, regain your masculinity. And when you're treated badly, sometimes those patterns get like just passed down or like adopted. And yeah, so anyways, I was just thinking about that because that really stood out to me. But yeah, another thing is that there's these two characters that are at some point clearly in a same-sex relationship. And what's so beautiful about that is like the actual relationship and how the main character gets a level of kindness and tenderness she never got from anyone else. But even in her heartbreak, I felt like, oh, she's so nice. I don't understand. Yeah, anyways, I'm just rambling. I'm rambling because I love this book so much, but I don't know. Who knows? Will this be a book I'll read ever again? I don't know, because all the books on my shelf, I keep them because I go back and reread them. So maybe I'll keep it for reference, but that's definitely something I'm thinking about, or gifting it to someone. I haven't decided yet. Let me see, what other books? I only have 3 more. I think the first one I read was My Name is Romero by David A. Romero. He's a poet. He's actually a local poet to me, Los Angeles based. And I genuinely enjoyed reading this because it felt a little bit healing. We do come from the same like cultural background, and some of the nuances of their existence and some of their, I don't know, I just felt very connected to their feelings. And so this is self-titled. My name is Romero. So what you're getting is definitely like, it just feels like a poetry version of a memoir in a way. And so, yeah, I just, I felt very taken away about this in a way that, yeah, just really touched me. And it's nice to know one's not alone. So the last 2, which are probably almost like the last 2 for the project that I read, probably because the books are so big, so I felt a little bit daunting, were Boyle Heights. Boyle Heights and Lies, my teacher told me. This is just too big for me, I'm telling you. I could read all day, every day, but as soon as it's a thick book, I just, I run the other way. So with Boyle Heights, how Los Angeles neighborhood became the future of American democracy. What I really love that the author is tapping into, because I really didn't know where this book was going to go, but I was definitely interested in picking it up. I bought it from an airport. I just saw it and it was sounded so good. Similar to, let me see. what Ngugi Thiong'o does in Decolonizing the Mind and Frantz Fanon does in The Wretched of the Earth. I feel like Boyle Heights by George J. Sanchez is doing something similar. Um, Not necessarily inserting their opinion, this is a work of nonfiction, but really laying out the groundwork of patterns in history of what happened to the people, the indigenous people of Mexico, specific to Boyle Heights, and how those constant oppressive injustice kind of behaviors become a pattern, and how people are treated like almost like a test trial of like hatred and oppression, so that the system could learn those things, refine them, and then do that to somebody like another group. And that is just a pattern that keeps happening, and that's talked about within specifically Boyle Heights, and constantly puts on contextualizes what's going on nationally and on a global scale, and how that all affected the existence of Boyle Heights and how it still stands and is preserved today. I find that wildly fascinating and important, just like the other two books I just mentioned in connection to this one. And then with Lies My Teacher Told Me, that I just read, just finished reading, I felt like compared to Boyle Heights, compared to The Wretched of the Earth, compared to Decolonize the Mind, what this is adding to that conversation is how textbooks have lies of omission or outright lies have changed the truth, and we're actually backpedaling with the narrative that kids are being taught in a way where the kids aren't really meant to ask critical thinking skill, to ask critical questions or develop critical thinking skills. And historical fiction, historical figures are turned into two-dimensional hero-like characters, instead of accepting the nuances and all the things a person could do that are bad that also contribute to something good, that we need to accept both, because that is how we get a chance to learn, to figure out like, all right, this good thing happened, but let's look at all the bad and figure, how do we not repeat that? How do we get to just improving and developing? Sorry, my cat is totally tearing up my back chair. Yeah, because how could we improve if we're not really trying to let kids learn or think for themselves, critically, thinking critically about the state that we're in is it's not a bad thing. It's you have to identify a thing and a problem to find a solution, basically. And so, yeah, I'm really glad that this is a book that I landed on as a last book to read. I did dual read this at times. Sometimes I was reading it on my own. Sometimes I was doing the audiobook, and the audio is really well done. It's just clear, dry in the way that it needs to be, because this is nonfiction. But yeah, I'm so glad. I never knew about this book. I just happened to go to the bookstore and kind of peruse, and it just piqued my interest. So it's not like I ever heard about it in any particular conversations, and I would hope that more people have conversations about this book, but because it's so good, I didn't know about it. But then again, what do I know? It sold really well. So yeah, with that said, I did it. I started in January. It is now September. But I did take a break for the summer, just for my own sanity. Reading a lot of nonfiction just kind of makes me feel a little bit bummed at times. But yeah, I did it. And I'd say every single one of these books, I'm going to cover my face kind of, is worth reading. And I hope that you pick up one of them. Let me know what you think. And so, yeah, if you're here with me for as long as this has taken me, Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. Please subscribe if you haven't. If you're returning, thank you so much. I couldn't do this without you. I enjoy the dialogue that we always have in the chats. And so yeah, I'll see you later. I'll see you in the chat, and we'll just gab away either about these books or, if you want, Interview the Vampire. Talk to you later. Bye.